Hey dreamer, tonight we're not chasing treasure. We are following a real day in the life of a pirate. What did they actually do all day? Pirate life wasn't rum and sword fights from sunrise to sunset, and most pirates weren't always as confident as they look like. Let's dive into the daily pirate life. Before we begin, take a second to like the video and subscribe. Your support is very much appreciated, and feel free to leave a comment telling me where you are listening from and what your favourite history topic is. Maybe we will dive into that topic soon. Now dim the lights, get cozy, relax your muscles and let your shoulders melt down into the mattress. Because we are setting sail into the daily life of a working pirate. Have you ever wondered what pirates actually did all day when they were not dramatically swinging from ropes? Who decided the rules on a ship full of professional rule breakers? What did breakfast look like when your kitchen is a barrel and your chef is a man named Knuckles? Did pirates really have treasure, or did they mostly have a bag of damp biscuits and a dream? How do you live with 30 men in a floating wooden box without starting a mutiny over someone breathing too loud? Congratulations! You have just woken up on a pirate ship. The year is 1717. You're in the Bahamas. You do not own much, but you do own a new and exciting rash. The deck is already yelling at you quietly through splinters. Good luck. You wake up to the gentle rocking of the sea, the creak of timber, and the sound of someone coughing like a broken accordion. Your sleeping space is not a room. It is more like a suggestion. A hammock, a coil of rope, a corner of deck, whatever was available when you finally stopped being awake. The air smells like tar, sweat, damp cloth, and yesterday's poor decisions. You blink, and a rat blinks back like you are sharing a studio apartment. And outside, the sky is going pale, which means the ship is about to begin its daily argument with reality. The first thing you notice is the sticky warmth of too many bodies exhaling into a shared wooden coffin. Someone's foot is in your personal space. A hammock above creaks ominously. You are surrounded by men who snore, mutter, and sleep with all the grace of a collapsed puppet show. It is less like a bedroom and more like being buried in a pile of strangers who could use some deodorant. Privacy is non-existent. Hygiene is folklore. And still, you are here. You survived the night without falling into the sea, getting stabbed, or being nibbled by your roommate, the rat. Sitting up is a group activity involving your spine, your balance, and a deep conversation with gravity. The ship tilts gently beneath you. Your head sloshes like a barrel that lost its lid. Sleep here is never deep. It is light, interrupted, and humid. You are constantly surrounded by the music of creaking beams, scratching limbs, and the occasional dream yelling from someone who once saw a goat catch fire. Someone groans awake beside you and scratches himself with a level of commitment that suggests both discomfort and philosophy. He nods at you in greeting, or maybe just because you're sitting on his coat. You nod back. That counts as conversation. You try to stretch, which is hard in a ship the size of a large broom closet filled with tired criminals. There is no yoga on board, unless you count trying to reach your foot without tipping into someone's beard. Your shoulders crack. Your back sighs. You rub your eyes with the back of your hand, mostly because your fingers are suspicious and may have touched things no hand should touch. A sliver of light cuts across the beams above, golden and dusty. That is morning. Not a clock, not a rooster. Just light, and the realization that the day is not going to wait. Around you, men begin to stir, shifting like sacks of wet laundry being brought to life. Someone sneezes, Someone else mutters about rats in the biscuit barrel. A tin pot clatters above, calling everyone toward another round of sweaty participation in maritime survival. You do a quick inventory of yourself, like a man checking his pockets after leaving a bar. Do you still have all your fingers? Mostly. Do you still have both knees? Technically yes, but one of them feels like it's slept on the wrong side of the law. Your hair is doing something ambitious, and your skin has developed a new map of bumps that looks like it is trying to form a coastline. You scratch once, then stop because scratching on a pirate ship is a slippery slope into becoming a full-time scratching person. Your stomach joins the roll call with a low threatening gurgle, not quite hungry, more like annoyed. It is still processing yesterday's dried biscuit, which had the density of a paving stone and the charm of a shoe. You pat your gut like an apology and promise it something slightly more edible later. You are lying, but your stomach does not know that yet. Now for the feet. The pirate's version of soul-searching. You wiggle your toes. They respond slowly, like they are filing a formal complaint. The soles of your feet feel tender and rough at the same time, like someone sanded them with a regret-flavoured sponge. You peer down to check for cuts, blisters, or signs that your toes have abandoned ship. A smear of tar, 2 suspicious welts, and a toenail that seems to have retired early. Could be worse. You shift your shirt and something small and possibly alive scurries away from your collarbone. You pretend it was just a crumb with ambition. Your skin feels like it wants to talk to a manager. Salt, sun, sweat, and the occasional splash of something unlabeled have made you into a patchwork of itches and burns. Somewhere on your shoulder, a sunburn is thinking about peeling. You consider peeling it yourself, but remember that skin is not optional. You run a hand through your hair, which now has the texture of hay that lost a fight. A knot in the back could qualify as its own crew member. It smells faintly of sea, rope, and mystery. You would wash it, but washing anything on this ship is a luxury reserved for sails, plates, and the captain's dog. The rest of you is on a rinse cycle powered by wind and shame. You sniff your armpits and immediately regret it. You smell like salt, wet wool, and existential dread. Deodorant has not been invented yet, and even if it had, it would have been rationed or traded for gunpowder. You will have to rely on the ancient art of pretending nobody smells anything, which works until someone walks by, makes a face, and mutters something about the air tasting aggressive. With the body check complete and no immediate infections or detached limbs to report, you decide that this is as good as it gets. Your pirate health plan consists of pretending everything is fine until your leg falls off. You stretch once, make a noise that sounds like a haunted door hinge, and rise to your feet. You're alive, you're disgusting, you are functional, and on this ship that is considered peak condition. You climb up into the open air and the early light hits you like a wet towel. The deck is cold under your feet, and your feet immediately learn what splinters are in a spiritual way. Around you, men are already moving with that tired purpose of people who live at work. Somebody is coiling rope, somebody is checking a sail, somebody is spitting with intention. A pirate ship is not a lounge. It is a floating workplace with worse snacks. And the ocean is calm right now, which means it is the perfect time to be busy, because later it might try to kill you. There is a rhythm to the ship that starts before the sun fully rises. The creak of ropes, the groan of wood, the soft thud of bare feet slapping across the deck. You hear someone shout about a loose line, followed by the shuffle of men moving to fix it with all the urgency of people who know that slacking off usually ends in yelling or falling off something. The sails flap gently above like lazy flags, and the whole vessel feels like it is shaking off sleep in the most violent nautical way possible. You join the blur of movement without really knowing what your task is, which is the most authentic pirate training method. If you look too idle, someone will hand you a job. If you move too fast, they will assume you know what you're doing. The trick is to look helpful but confused. That way you are always seen as trainable, but not responsible. A man shoves a coil of rope into your arms and says something in a dialect that might be English but has taken a lot of damage. You nod and carry the rope to where it feels vaguely important. Around you, the crew is fully in motion now. The riggers are already halfway up the mast, dangling from lines like angry sea squirrels. Someone is swabbing the deck with what looks like the remains of a former broom. A young man is scraping barnacles off the side with a blade that should not be that flexible. The ship groans beneath it all, like it is waking up with a hangover and too many chores. The smell of morning is a cocktail of salt, tar, old wood and wet humanity. A barrel leaks something that might be water and might be disappointment. You step around a puddle and immediately realize that it was not just water, and your foot has become part of a learning experience. No one reacts. Everyone has done this. Your eyes burn a little from the sunlight reflecting off the sea. The wind picks up just enough to dry your sweat into a crusty second skin. You pass a man who is singing softly to himself while patching a sail. The lyrics are half song, half curse, and the tune is suspiciously close to something you once heard in church. Someone else sharpens a blade with the kind of attention normally reserved for meditation or revenge. Two men argue about knots. One claims the other tied a bowline like a donkey with gloves. The donkey in question is unbothered and chewing something that might have once been bread. Time moves differently on a ship. 10 minutes of hauling rope feels like an hour. You lose track of the sun's position. You focus on not stepping in anything you will regret. Your shoulders begin to ache from effort, and your hands start learning the unique texture of rope burns. You think fondly of office chairs and carpet. But there is something oddly satisfying in the movement, in the momentum of bodies all working toward the shared goal of keeping this floating nightmare from sinking. The work is constant but not frantic. It is just there, waiting, like laundry that judges you. And by the time you pause to wipe the sweat from your brow, the ship has fully woken up. The sails are trimmed, the ropes are tight, the deck looks less like a crime scene. The sun has risen, and you, somehow, are now a functioning part of this bizarre floating workplace. Whether you like it or not, you learn quickly that life at sea is measured in watches, which is a fancy way of saying the day is chopped into chunks of labour, and you are always in one of them. The men on duty keep an eye on sails, rigging and the horizon. The men off duty are supposed to rest, but resting is hard when the ship is constantly making noises like a haunted furniture store. Someone explains it to you with the patience of a man who has repeated the same instructions to new idiots all year. You nod like you understand, then immediately forget, which is also historically accurate. The day is divided into sections, not by clocks, but by bells and the rotation of human misery. Each watch lasts about 4 hours, except for the 2 short ones in the evening known as the dog watches. No one knows exactly why they are called that. One man tells you it is to even out shifts. Another says it is because people start barking at each other around then. You decide both explanations feel correct. The ship's bell rings, and the sound slices through the air like a warning from time itself. Men rise, groaning, rubbing their faces, adjusting their shirts into something that resembles clothing. The off-watch stumbles away in search of rest. The on-watch climbs the rigging or checks the sails, moving like tired clock hands. No one talks much. Everyone is already halfway into their task before their brains catch up. The ship wants motion, and so the bodies give it. You're assigned to the mid-morning watch, which sounds gentle until you remember that is when the sun becomes aggressive. Someone hands you a logbook and tells you to record anything worth noting. You glance at the sea. It looks the same as it always does, which is big and wet and unhelpfully vague. You write something about the wind to look busy. That is your first real pirate lesson. Stay busy enough that no one assigns you something worse. Being on watch means you are now a set of eyes, a pair of ears, and a backup rope hauler. You scan the sea like you might see something besides more sea. Occasionally someone yells sail, which triggers a mass squinting session among the crew. Most of the time it is a bird or a cloud. But just in case, you're expected to look serious and slightly alarmed. Even the veterans play along, because it breaks up the monotony and makes you feel briefly important. Off-watch, in theory, is when you get to rest. In practice, it is when you lie in a damp hammock listening to 30 men breathe too loud. The ship groans, the sails flap. A man nearby snores with theatrical flair. Someone mutters in their sleep about cheese. You shift trying to get comfortable, which is an illusion you have not been able to afford since boarding. You close your eyes and drift in and out, never deep enough to dream, just hovering in a fog of exhaustion. One older sailor tells you the trick is to never be fully awake and never fully asleep. Just exist in the space between, like a ghost that forgot what it was angry about. You want to laugh, but you suspect he is right. So you learn to measure your day in bells and aching shoulders. You adjust to the strange rhythm, the endless trade-off of work and almost rest. You start to recognize time not by a clock, but by how much rope you have handled and whether your shirt is still dry. If your watch ends without anything sinking, shouting, or catching fire, that is a good day, and good days are rare enough to notice. It is time to clean the deck, which sounds noble until you realize you are basically mopping a porch that is being attacked by salt every second. You get handed a bucket, a brush, and the kind of motivation that comes from knowing someone might hit you with a rope if you do not move. You scrub dried salt, grime, fish bits, and mystery stains that are best left in the past. The wood is rough, the water is cold, and you are doing the world's least glamorous workout. In the modern world, this would be a fitness class with music. Here it is just you, sweat, and a seagull watching like a supervisor. The goal is simple. Keep the deck clean enough that people do not slip, die, or become stuck to it. But the ocean is constantly undoing your progress. Every wave, every boot, every drop of fish juice from yesterday's dinner adds a new stain to the already exhausted planks. It is like cleaning a beach with a toothbrush. You finish one corner, turn around, and it is dirty again. You suspect the ship is fighting back. Your brush is made of wood and bristles that might have been straw once, but now feel like sharpened disappointment. You grip it with both hands, bent at the waist, scrubbing with the technique of a man trying to erase a bad tattoo from the floor. The water sloshes around your feet, mixing with salt and grit to form a kind of pirate foot smoothie. You try not to think about how much of this liquid has been in or near another person. A few feet away, someone is tossing buckets of seawater across the deck like he's trying to baptize it. The splash is cold and sudden. It hits your knees and makes you gasp. He does not apologize. No one apologizes on a pirate ship. Apologies are reserved for things like sinking or accidentally stabbing the wrong man during a storm. The sun is climbing higher, and the deck is now a blinding mix of wet wood and harsh light. Your eyes squint. Your skin starts to feel like it is crisping. You can smell salt, wet rope, and the faint lingering odour of something pickled. Possibly food, possibly a foot. It is hard to tell. You wipe your face with your sleeve and immediately regret it. The sleeve smells worse. You look around at the other men scrubbing beside you. No one speaks much. There is just the sound of bristles, boots, and the occasional grunt of effort. This is not bonding. This is survival via enforced tidiness. Every man is locked in battle with his square of floor. One man is singing to himself, low and tuneless, and another has wedged a pipe between his teeth while muttering curses at a particularly stubborn blotch. As you scrape at a dark smear that might be blood, a thought crosses your mind. Someone probably died here, right where you are kneeling, and now you are buffing that memory into a high gloss. You pause, then scrub harder, because you would rather not think about that too long, and also because the man with the rope is watching again. Cleaning the deck is a rite of passage. Every pirate does it, even the experienced ones. The deck must be clean because filth leads to infection, rot, and angry officers. It is the one task that is both punishment and maintenance. You are not just removing dirt. You are proving you belong here, or at least proving you will not complain loud enough to be thrown overboard. Eventually your arms ache and your back hums with warning, but the deck is cleaner. Not clean, but cleaner. You drop the brush into the bucket, flex your fingers, and look at your work. It glistens in the sun, temporarily presentable. You exhale, soaked in sweat and salt water. The gull is still watching. You nod at it. It does not nod back, but you both know. The deck won today. Eventually the ship decides it is time for food, which is generous because it does not have to. Breakfast is ship's biscuit, hard enough to qualify as building material, plus something salted that used to be an animal, and maybe a ladle of peas if the universe likes you today. You chew slowly, like you are negotiating with a rock. Sometimes you soak the biscuit to make it softer, which is the pirate version of adding oat milk. You try not to think about how long this food has been travelling. Your stomach accepts it with the resignation of a tired clerk, and then somebody mentions rum, which wakes up everyone's soul. The ship's biscuit is less a meal and more a test of willpower. It was baked long ago, possibly in another century, and has the texture of drywall. You knock one against the railing. It responds with a thud. You check for weevils, because that is what you do now. Tap them out, blow them off, maybe flick one for luck. If there are too many, you shrug and call it extra protein. This is not a dining experience. This is calorie-based problem solving. The meat is aggressively preserved. It could be beef, pork, or some kind of marine cryptid. It smells like a salt lick dipped in regret. It is chewy, stringy, and somehow damp and dry at the same time. You chew like your jaw is filing a formal complaint. No one knows how old it is. You assume it came with the ship. There is no point in complaining because the alternative is nothing. And you already tried eating nothing last week. It was worse. If luck is on your side, there are peas. the dried kind that have been brought back to life with hot water and low expectations. They are bland and slightly lumpy but easy to swallow. Nobody complains about peas. They are neutral, like the beige wallpaper of breakfast. Some men whisper about onions. Others dream of citrus. You hear someone mention limes, and everyone around him pauses like he said something holy. Scurvy has made fruit a myth worth worshipping. You eat cross-legged on the deck or leaning against a barrel, surrounded by other silent chewers. Conversation is minimal. The act of eating takes focus. The biscuits demand your full attention, or they will break your spirit and possibly a molar. One man jokes that the biscuit bit him back. No one laughs. Not because it is a bad joke, but because it is true. An older pirate next to you dips his biscuit in water and lets it sit until it softens slightly. He says this is the trick, like he is sharing a secret. You try it. It helps. A little. Mostly it just makes the biscuit taste like damp timber. But you thank him anyway because gratitude is the only seasoning available. A jug of rum makes the rounds. It is early but nobody cares. The rum dulls your taste buds and your thoughts. You take a sip. Warmth spreads through your chest like a blanket with low standards. Someone toasts to a successful day, which is optimistic, but the rum makes it feel possible. You take a sip of water and realize why people at sea love rum. The water tastes like it was stored inside a boot, then forgotten, then promoted. Rum is the comfort drink, the disinfectant, and the emotional support beverage. Sometimes it gets mixed with water. Mostly so the water can pretend it has a purpose. You are not sipping for pleasure. You are sipping for courage. The men talk about supplies, about ports, about the last time somebody drank the wrong thing and spent a week arguing with the ocean. You swallow carefully and decide your modern filtered tap water was actually a miracle. The ship stores water in wooden barrels, which sounds romantic until you remember wood is porous, the ocean is hot, and nothing has been cleaned properly since the ship was built. After a few weeks at sea, the water takes on flavours, not notes like in wine, more like haunted undertones, hints of algae, funk, splinter, regret. You sniff the cup and it smells like someone boiled socks near a swamp, but you drink it anyway, because you are thirsty and there is no backup plan. There is a man on the crew who claims he can tell which barrel the water came from based on smell alone. You believe him because he has the expression of someone who has made peace with drinking things that might fight back. He calls your cup the spicy one. You ask what that means. He just smiles and says, "Wait, you do not like that." Then someone offers you a sip of grog. You hesitate, then accept. Grog is rum diluted with water, sometimes with lemon or lime juice if you're lucky, but today it's just rum and old water getting to know each other badly. It burns going down, in a way that makes you wonder if your organs are being scolded, but it also clears your sinuses and gives you the illusion of strength, which is exactly the point. You sit on an overturned bucket with your cup and watch the others sip, laugh, and grimace through their morning dose. There is a rhythm to it, like a slow communal cough. Someone burps like it is a language. The ship rocks gently, and for a moment you feel oddly settled. The talk drifts to supplies, how much water is left, whether the next port will have barrels that are less cursed, whether a captured ship might have better rum. Nobody is optimistic. A man tells a story about a time he drank from a barrel that had something dead floating in it. He says he saw stars during the day and heard music underwater for a week. Everyone nods like that is just part of life. Another man leans over and confesses he prefers the water warm because it tastes less like despair. You nod, then realise you now have opinions about water temperature and despair, which means you have officially adapted. Congratulations, you are part of the ecosystem now. You finish your cup with a deep sigh and wipe your mouth on your sleeve. There is a slimy feeling on your tongue, but you ignore it. Your body needs hydration more than it needs answers. Around you, men toss empty cups back into barrels, wipe their faces, and grunt in agreement with things no one actually said. The water is bad, the rum is worse, but both keep you going. They numb the edge of things, dull the taste of the day, and help you survive long enough to be mad at lunch. You tuck your cup away and rise slowly, stomach warm, tongue confused, soul lightly brined. There is work to do, and the ocean does not care if your breath smells like old furniture. Now that you have some fuel, you get a lesson in pirate leadership. There is a captain, but he is not a king. He is more like a manager who can be voted out if he is annoying in battle. There is also a quartermaster, the person who keeps order, settles disputes, and makes sure the captain does not start acting like a spoiled landlord. It is weirdly organized for a criminal business. It is like joining a startup where everybody has a sword, and the team-building exercise is robbery. You watch the officers move through the crew, and you realize this ship runs on rules, even if the rules are covered in rum stains. The captain gives the big orders, where to sail, who to chase, when to run. But on a day like today, when nobody is being boarded or chased or set on fire, the quartermaster is king of the deck. He decides who does what, when, and for how long. He is also the person who makes sure nobody is secretly hoarding biscuits or hiding the good rope. You see him now, striding across the deck like a man who has memorized everyone's nonsense and has no more patience for any of it. One of the crew mutters something under his breath about the quartermaster being all bark and no plank. The quartermaster hears it, raises an eyebrow, and the man suddenly finds himself reassigned to something unpleasant involving buckets and fish parts. Lesson learned. Pirate justice is fast and slightly damp. Below the quartermaster there are a few other roles. The boatswain, who manages the sails and ropes. The gunner, who manages the cannons. The carpenter, who manages all the holes the ship keeps trying to have. And the cook, who manages to ruin everything equally, no matter what the ingredients are. Each of them has some authority over their small corner of chaos, and each one is terrifying in their own specific way. The gunner is always covered in soot and muttering to himself. The carpenter sleeps with a hammer. The cook hums lullabies while holding a knife. What surprises you is how much of this ship runs on agreement. Not fear, not money, but shared interest. The crew votes on big decisions. They split the loot based on a system that is written down somewhere, probably on a rum-stained scrap nailed to a post. If someone steals from the crew, the punishment is not just a scolding. It is dramatic, swift, and often involves the word marooning. And marooning is not a vacation. You start to understand that pirates, despite being criminals, really hate unfairness. Most of them became pirates because they were treated badly on navy ships or merchant vessels. So now, in this lawless ocean workplace, they have invented their own kind of law. It is not always nice, but it is clear. And it keeps people from stabbing each other over missing socks. As the day unfolds, you watch the captain emerge from below. He does not yell. He simply looks around, makes a small adjustment to the heading, and goes back below, like a man who knows his real job starts when things explode. He has a quiet authority, the kind you earn by not dying during complicated decisions. He is not feared, but he is respected, or at least tolerated, which is basically the same thing at sea. You get the sense that leadership on this ship is more performance art than divine right. Everyone has power, but only if they use it wisely. Too much yelling gets ignored. Too much silence gets filled with suspicion. You need balance. You need presence. And maybe a sword that looks slightly cooler than everyone else's. So you keep your head down, follow orders, and start memorizing who actually runs what. Because on this ship, knowing who to hand the rope to might be the difference between getting promoted to cannon duty or demoted to scrubbing the latrine barrel. And there is a big difference. One comes with a hat. The other comes with trauma. At some point you hear the ship's rules being discussed. The articles that everyone agreed to, the pirate version of clicking, "I agree." Except here, the penalty for ignoring the rules is not a warning email. It is something dramatic like marooning. The rules cover shares of loot, fighting, stealing from the crew, and what happens if you get hurt. There is an entire workplace policy for losing a limb which is darkly practical. You listen and think. In a modern office, people cannot even agree on the thermostat. Here they have a constitution and also canons. You accept that your new job comes with paperwork, and the paperwork comes with teeth. The pirate articles are not optional. They are the lifeblood of this strange democracy at sea. Every man signs or gives a mark before joining, even if he cannot write. It is not just tradition, it is insurance. A written agreement between outlaws who do not trust each other, but still need a system. It is how you keep peace on a ship full of egos, weapons, and various untreated emotional conditions. One of the older crew members explains it to you while picking something out of his teeth with a nail. Every crew has its own version of the articles. Some are strict, others loose, depending on how optimistic the captain is about human nature. But most articles cover the essentials: how loot is divided, what happens if someone steals, what happens if someone cheats at gambling, and what you get paid if your leg suddenly becomes optional. There are fixed shares. The captain might get 2 shares of the loot. The quartermaster gets 1.5. Regular crew get 1. If you are new, or particularly bad at aiming a cannon, you might get 3/4 of a share. There is a surprising level of math involved for a group of men who do not believe in shirts with buttons. The shares keep people motivated. Everyone fights harder when they know exactly what percent of that cargo full of sugar and stolen trousers might be theirs. Then there are rules about fighting on board. You cannot just punch someone because they chewed too loud or looked at your biscuit wrong. Disputes are handled by the quartermaster, and if that fails, by a duel on land. Yes, land. You are not allowed to fight to the death on the ship. That is considered disruptive. Killing your shipmate on a Tuesday is rude if the deck is being scrubbed, and then there are rules about injuries. If you lose an arm, you get compensation, an official payout from the collective loot. It might be 100 pieces of 8, or some other agreed sum. If you're blinded or crippled, or otherwise made less functional by the job, you are not tossed aside. You are paid. It is the closest thing to health insurance the 18th century can offer. It is also oddly humane, in a pirate way. You learn that stealing from the crew is the most serious offence, not stealing from other ships. That is fine, encouraged even. But take 1 coin from a crewmate's bag and you are finished. Punishments range from whipping to being left on a sandbar with a pistol and 1 bullet, like the ocean's version of a strongly worded letter. The rules are read aloud sometimes, especially when tensions rise or new men come aboard. They are recited like scripture, except with more swearing. Everyone listens because the rules are not just legal, they are survival. You need order when your workplace is made of wood, gunpowder, and resentment. As you sit and listen, you realize these rules, rough as they are, make life here possible. It is the only thing keeping this violent floating democracy from turning into a floating disaster. You nod, trying to look like someone who understands contractual law, while still smelling like smoked fish and old rope. The articles are brutal, but fair. Just like the sea, it's time for rigging. The ship is basically a forest of ropes, and each rope has a job, and if you pull the wrong one, you will ruin someone's morning and maybe the entire ship. You are told to haul, tie, loosen, and secure in that order, and you immediately learn that sailors have muscles in places you have never met. Your hands get rough fast. Your palms learn the language of friction. You look up at the mast and you see men climbing like they are part spider. You consider requesting a safer work environment, then remember the ocean is the human resources department. You're handed a coil of line and a vague command like secure that brace, which sounds simple until you realize you do not know what a brace is, where it lives, or how it feels about being secured. So you do what all new pirates do. You nod with confidence and follow the man in front of you like a confused duckling with a mild death wish. Rigging is a combination of brute force and delicate panic. Some lines need to be hauled with your whole body, muscles straining, feet planted, teeth clenched. Others need just a careful adjustment with 2 fingers, like you're trying to gently calm down a sleeping cat. The trick is knowing which is which before you either do too little or rip something expensive out of the sky. You learn knots, so many knots. There are bowlines and clove hitches and reef knots, and something called a rolling hitch that sounds like a dance but is mostly pain. A grizzled sailor shows you how to tie them with thick, weathered hands that move faster than your thoughts. You try to copy him. Your knot looks like a small, anxious bird made out of twine. He tells you it is fine. He is lying, but gently. Climbing is part of the job, not optional. At some point you are sent aloft, which is nautical for go up there and be afraid. You grip a rope ladder that sways like it is questioning your choices. Each rung is a dare. The higher you go, the louder the wind gets. Below you the deck shrinks. Above you the sails flap like massive warning flags. You cling to the mast like a lizard that regrets its life choices. At the top, the rigging stretches out like a web made of stress and splinters. You are meant to move along it like a confident squirrel. You move like a nervous sandwich. Every step is accompanied by creaking, flapping, and the sound of your own breath, asking if this is really necessary. The view is stunning. The ocean stretches forever, vast and empty, and for a moment you feel powerful. Then your foot slips a little, and you are suddenly very religious. Back on deck, your arms are jelly, and your hands feel like they were sandpapered by regret. But the sails are adjusted, the lines are taut, and nothing fell. Success. You are handed another coil of rope. Your heart wilts slightly, but your hands move before your brain can protest. This is your life now. You are one with the lines. There is something meditative about it, once you stop actively fearing death. The repetition, the rhythm, the way the crew moves together like a very dysfunctional machine. You pull, tie, haul, and wince. You grunt your way through tasks that would horrify a chiropractor. You do not complain because complaining gets you assigned to worse rope. By the end of the shift, your shoulders ache, your fingers throb, and your palms are decorated with small calluses and one slightly romantic blister. But nothing snapped, nothing broke, and nobody yelled at you with real rage. That is a win. You are not yet a sailor, but you are someone who has not let go. And that is half the job. The wind shifts and suddenly everyone moves, because a sailing ship is alive in the sense that it demands attention. Sails are adjusted, lines are pulled, canvas snaps. The sound is loud and sharp, like a giant sheet being shaken out. The ship leans, the horizon tilts, and your stomach decides to practice new emotions. You learn that sailing is not just letting the wind push you, it is controlling a stubborn animal made of air. You watch the experienced men work and try to copy them, which is like watching a chef and trying to replicate it with a rock and confidence. The sails are massive, loud, and temperamental. They flap and groan with every gust like oversized curtains with opinions. When trimmed properly, the ship glides with a sense of purpose. When not, it stumbles forward like a drunk remembering it left something on the stove. You are told to grab a halyard and haul. You nod, pretending to know what a halyard is. You haul anyway. Wind direction is no longer a background detail. It is now your boss. The helmsman yells about close-hauled and broad reach and other things that sound like they belong in a medieval dating guide. You pretend to understand. All you know is that when things are working, the ship moves like it knows something you do not. When they are not, everything flaps and crashes like an angry laundry pile. The rigging is its own jungle. You haul, ease, belay. Belaying means tying something off in a way that will not get you yelled at. Nobody explains which lines matter most. You're expected to figure it out before something breaks or flies away. A man next to you curses the wind like it stole from him. Another tightens a sail without looking, humming through his teeth. They all move with a rhythm you're still trying to learn. Then the ship leans. The sails catch just right, and suddenly the entire vessel tilts at a concerning angle. You stumble sideways, your knees stop functioning. You grab a rope and hang on like a man in a very specific disaster film. Around you, the crew continues as if nothing strange is happening. They walk at angles. You cling to a rope like a damp decoration. You ask if this is normal. One man nods. One says probably. One just laughs. So you hang on, body tense, doing your best to look like this is part of your process. The ship is now slicing through waves with speed. It is thrilling and horrible at once, like skydiving without knowing if anyone packed the parachute. The sails above snap and billow. The masts creak. The ship groans with the weight of movement. The wind hisses through the rigging with a voice you cannot translate. The ocean is no longer a thing you look at. It is a thing you are very much inside of, with all the grace of a man thrown into a rotating door. Eventually the shouting stops. The sails settle. The deck evens out just enough that you can pretend you are standing normally. Your hands hurt. Your jaw unclenches. You realize you have not blinked in several minutes. You breathe out, long and shaky, and your heart returns to something resembling a human pace. You look up at the sails again. They are not just fabric. They are muscle, breath, willpower. They decide if you live, if you chase, if you escape. And now that you have seen them up close, heard them shout, felt them drag the entire world forward. You understand why everyone here treats them like gods with ropes. Terrifying ones, but gods nonetheless. Later, someone brings up navigation, and you realize pirates are not just wandering around hoping to bump into treasure. There are charts, compasses, and hard-earned knowledge of currents and reefs. The navigator looks at the sky like it is a spreadsheet. Somebody points out landmarks, and you squint at the coastline and pretend you see what they see. It is humbling in a sleepy way. In modern life, you panic if your phone drops to 1%. Here you are steering by sun, stars, and vibes, while the ocean tries to erase you. You are shown a chart, which is less of a map and more of an educated guess drawn by someone who probably ran out of paper halfway through. It is aged, stained, and curled at the edges like it has witnessed crimes. The coastline is vaguely familiar, dotted with names you have only heard in muttered threats. There are symbols everywhere. Dots for ports, skulls for danger, X's that may or may not mean treasure. It looks less like geography, and more like a warning someone doodled under duress. The compass is next. A worn brass thing that spins too quickly when bumped, and always seems to be a little disappointed in you. You learn that true north is different from magnetic north, which is also different from the direction your instincts are screaming. A sailor tries to explain it, and halfway through you nod politely and walk away, before your brain dribbles out of your ears. Then comes the real fun, dead reckoning. This is where you take your last known position, guess your current speed and direction, and estimate where you are now based on hope and a bit of math. It is the navigational equivalent of closing your eyes, walking 10 steps, and assuming you are still near your house. But it is all they have, unless the sun is out or the stars are visible. If the sky is clear, they pull out a sextant, a device that looks like a weapon from a Renaissance science fiction film, and start measuring angles like a man arguing with the sky. Watching the navigator work is like seeing someone do taxes on a tightrope. He mutters numbers, marks lines on a chart, squints into the light, and occasionally curses the wind. He does not guess. He deduces. His face stays calm, but his knuckles are white. You realize that if he is off by even a little, the ship could hit a reef, miss an island, or drift helplessly into nothing. There is no backup GPS, no friendly voice saying recalculating, just silence and water. You are allowed to try, briefly. You hold the compass flat and try to read it without making it spin like a carnival ride. You mark your estimate on the chart, and it is gently corrected by a man who has sailed more miles than you have walked. You feel proud and useless at the same time. One sailor explains that even the best navigators get lost. Sometimes currents pull you without warning. Sometimes clouds hide the sky for days. Sometimes the map is just wrong, so you learn to adjust, to feel the wind, to smell land before you see it. It is part science, part instinct, part complete guess. You look out over the endless water and try to imagine doing this for months. Finding your way using stars and scribbles while the ship rocks under your feet and your food slowly turns into jerky. A pirate ship is a workplace that stores its office supplies in the form of pistols, cutlasses and cannons. So you clean and maintain weapons, because salt air eats metal like it is hungry. Blades get oiled, guns get checked, and the cannons sit there quietly, like large metal animals waiting to be fed. The smell is sharp and oily. Someone explains how damp powder can ruin a fight, which is terrifying, because nothing says disappointment like a gun that politely refuses to work. You rub, you wipe, you listen, and you try not to imagine your first real battle, which is coming sooner than your nerves would prefer. You start with the pistols, flintlocks, one shot each. Beautiful in theory, stressful in practice. They look like they should come with instructions and a waiver. The flint must be sharp, the powder dry, the mechanism clean. You run an oiled cloth over the barrel checking for rust. The metal is already pitted in places and someone says that is normal. You are not reassured. You're shown how to load it slowly, carefully, with tools and steps and little gestures that seem like magic spells with serious consequences. Next comes the cutlass. It is curved, heavy, and personal. Everyone sharpens their own. You watch a man drag the blade slowly across a whetstone, with the care of someone brushing a cat that bites. Sparks fly. He tests the edge by slicing a strip of rope in one clean movement. You try the same and nearly drop the blade. He nods like you did fine, even though you both know you did not. You oil your own blade. It is not elegant. It has nicks in it. The hilt is wrapped in something that might have once been cloth, but it is yours now. You run your thumb along the edge. Not too sharp, they say, just sharp enough to end a conversation. Then come the cannons, the big ones. They are not just weapons, they are personalities. Each has a name, given by someone who either had a sense of humour or a deep grudge against someone named Margaret. You help swab one out, using a long stick with a rag on the end that makes you feel like a very tense janitor. The inside is dark, cold, and smells like soot and old violence. You are shown the powder bag, the wad, the shot. You learn the order, the timing, the dance of it. Loading a cannon is teamwork with pressure. If you do it wrong, it backfires. Literally. If you do it right, it still might. Nobody jokes about it. The man who teaches you lost part of his eyebrow to a cannon named Judith. He still flinches when she fires. You oil the hinges, check the wheels, stack the shot nearby. Round iron balls that clink softly when rolled. They look harmless until you picture one hitting a mast or a chest or a face. You stop picturing it. You clean everything again. Salt is invisible until it ruins something. The men work mostly in silence, except for the occasional reminder not to store powder near open flame, which feels obvious until you realise someone did that once. You ask how often they do this. Every few days, you are told. Before battle, after battle, whenever the sea feels too quiet, rust does not sleep, and you cannot trust a weapon that has not been fussed over. By the time you finish, your hands are black with soot and oil. Your shirt is streaked. Your nose tingles from the sharp tang of metal polish and powder. You look down at the pistol in your lap, the sword at your side, the cannon resting nearby, and you realize something unsettling. You are ready. Or at least your weapons are. And soon enough, they will be asked to prove it. Between chores and watch changes, there are stretches of time where nothing happens, and this is the most dangerous part. Because bored men on a ship invent games, arguments, and terrible songs. Someone is carving something into wood. Someone is telling a story that gets less true every sentence. Someone is gambling with a coin that is probably cursed. You sit in the shade of a sail and let the rhythm of the waves do its work. It is almost peaceful if you ignore the fact that your entire lifestyle is illegal. Then a shout cuts through the air and boredom ends instantly. But before that shout, there is stillness. A kind of buzzing silence where everyone becomes just a little too aware of each other. That is when creativity starts to leak out. like steam from a kettle you forgot was on the stove. One man pulls out a fiddle with 3 strings and begins sawing at it like it owes him money. The tune is something between a jig and a funeral dirge, but it passes the time. Another man hums along, inventing lyrics as he goes. They mostly involve goats, mistakes, and an ex who may or may not be a myth. A group gathers near a crate for dice. The dice are not even. One is chipped. One looks like it might have been carved from a tooth. The game is a confusing mix of shouting, slapping, and casual threats. Someone wins a pouch of tobacco. Someone else wins a sock that does not belong to anyone playing. Nobody questions it. That is how pirate dice work. You gamble for treasure, but you settle for laundry. Across the deck, a man is carving something into the mast. You cannot tell if it is a symbol, a signature, or a list of people he intends to outlive. Either way, he is focused. Another is whittling a small figure from driftwood. It looks like a person, or a chicken, or a person who turned into a chicken. You compliment it. He says thanks. He has never carved before, but boredom lowers all standards. A few younger crewmen start wrestling for fun. No stakes, no grudges, just shirtless grappling on a deck that smells like fish and ambition. They laugh, tumble, bruise, and walk away smiling with blood on their teeth and sand in their hair. It is both wholesome and mildly terrifying. You stay seated. Stories begin, as they always do. A man claims he once snuck into a governor's mansion dressed as a priest. Another swears he survived a shipwreck by clinging to a barrel of molasses and eating barnacles. The stories spiral, each new one louder and less believable than the last. You find yourself almost enchanted by it, this floating tavern of nonsense. Time bends, the sun rises higher, the deck creaks, someone snores nearby. And then someone starts whistling the same 4 notes over and over again, and you briefly consider violence. You watch the clouds, you count seagulls, you think about nothing and everything all at once. For a moment it feels like maybe this pirate thing is not so bad. Maybe the danger is exaggerated. Maybe you could do this for a while. Then someone nearby lights a pipe with what you're pretty sure is gunpowder, and you remember that everything here is one bad idea away from chaos. And then it happens. A shout cuts through the lull. Not playful, not bored, sharp, urgent. A sail on the horizon. Men jump up. The music stops. The wrestler grabs his shirt. You get to your feet, suddenly wide awake. Boredom evaporates. The air changes. The ship leans forward, just slightly, as if it heard the shout too. Whatever happens next, your quiet moment is over. The day has returned. And this time, it brought company. You squint and see a distant shape, a small vessel, maybe a merchant sloop minding its business, unaware it is about to meet a group project with knives. The captain and officers gather, deciding what to do, weighing risk and reward. Your heart picks up speed, because it turns out you joined piracy on a day with an actual piracy event. The ship angles toward the target, and the chase begins. There is no debate. Once the officers decide it is worth chasing, the orders come out like cannonballs. Haul the sheets, trim the sails, adjust the course. Every man has a job now, and no one wants to be the one standing around looking confused. Even the ones who were napping moments ago are now wide awake, moving with a kind of twitchy excitement you would expect from gamblers hearing the dice hit the table. You are told to help tighten a line and hold it. You do. Your hands burn, but you do not let go. There is no time for questions. The deck is suddenly an obstacle course of ropes, buckets, shouting, and organized chaos. You duck under a swinging boom and catch a glimpse of the other ship again. It is small and fast and definitely trying to sail away from you. It is like watching a squirrel realize it is being chased by a lion wearing boots. The wind favors your ship for now. You lean into it and the hull responds, cutting through the waves with real speed. The sails stretch full above you like great pale lungs, and for a moment you feel the power of the thing you're riding. This is no lumbering barge, this is a hunter. The crew around you smiles in that tight, dangerous way. It is not joy, it is focus. You notice the change in the captain's posture. No more casual pacing. He stands still now, watching the distant ship through his spyglass. The quartermaster checks pistols and calls for blades to be distributed. Powder kegs are opened, ropes are prepared for boarding. Someone sharpens a cutlass with deliberate strokes. The laughter is gone. It is all serious now. The mood has shifted from bored to predatory. You ask someone what kind of ship it is. He glances at the silhouette and shrugs. Probably a merchant. Might have sugar or cloth. Might have something better. You ask what happens if it is armed. He grins without humour. Then it gets interesting. The gap between you and the other ship begins to close, slowly, a foot at a time. The sea is flat, the wind is strong, and your ship has the advantage for now. You can see them reacting on the other deck now. Tiny figures moving, adjusting sails, likely panicking. You wonder what it must feel like to be in their position, knowing that the ship chasing you is full of men who sharpen swords for fun. Someone hands you a pistol. It is not a question, it is an assumption. You take it, your hands sweaty. The metal is cool, heavy and full of implications. You slide it into your belt and try not to think about what using it would actually feel like. Then someone shouts again. Distance is closing. Boarding crew ready. This is it. The calm is done. The chase is nearly over. The blood is up, the sun is high, and the line between the two ships is thinning by the second. You grip the railing. You feel the tension stretch across the deck like a drawn bowstring. And just like that, you're not a passenger anymore. You're part of the hunt. The ship leans into the wind, sails tightened, ropes humming. The water rushes past like it is late for something. You haul lines, you brace, you sweat, and you learn that chasing another ship is like trying to catch a bus, except the bus has cannons and also you are on the ocean. Men shout tiny instructions that matter a lot. The target grows larger, then smaller, then larger again as the wind plays favourites. Your mouth tastes like salt and adrenaline. And the whole time, you can feel the crew's mood shifting, from routine to hungry focus, like a switch being flipped. The chase is not a sprint. It is a high-stakes marathon performed on a moving platform made of wood and bad decisions. Every adjustment to the sails might give you a sliver of speed or cost you the whole pursuit. The men are moving fast but precisely, like dancers who were raised by wolves and trained by wind. Someone yells to pull the main sheet tighter. Another yells to ease off. Both are correct, depending on which sail they mean. You do not know. You pull what they point at and hope the ship continues to stay upright. You can feel the tension in the rigging, the strain of canvas against air, wood against wave, muscle against gravity. The deck tilts and bucks. Your legs adjust constantly, bracing, leaning, reacting. You are not walking anymore. You are surfing a wooden beast that is angry and wants results. Your shirt sticks to your back. Your jaw clenches on instinct. The other ship is still running. It is smaller but fast. Maybe a sloop, maybe just lucky. It dances ahead of you, slipping across the water like a bar of soap in a dirty bathtub. The distance is shrinking, but not fast enough for anyone to relax. The wind shifts again and both ships respond like racing birds. Every gust feels like a test. The crew watches the sails, the waves, the sky. Everyone holds their breath between instructions, hoping for just one lucky breeze. You hear the captain's voice, calm but sharp. He is watching the ship ahead with the eyes of a predator measuring the exact second to pounce. He murmurs something to the helmsman, who adjusts the wheel with tiny movements. It is like steering a house with thoughts and rope. You feel the shift immediately in the deck. You wonder how something so big can turn so gracefully. You also wonder how it does not fall over. Time stretches. Minutes feel like hours. Every muscle in your body is either tight or trembling. Your hands burn from rope. Your shoulders ache. You blink and your eyes feel dry from staring at the horizon too long. Someone near you spits and grins. He lives for this. You do not yet know if you do. You just know that you're still here, still moving, still part of the chase. Then suddenly you are close enough to see figures on the other ship, tiny people scrambling to adjust sails, pointing, yelling. They see you. They know. This is the moment when the hunted realizes the chase might not end well for them. Their ship veers, trying for a new direction. It is desperate, and you feel it. Your crew surges with fresh energy. The cannon crews begin prepping. The boarding team sharpens blades that are already sharp. Pistols are checked. The quartermaster walks the deck like a man making final bets. The gap is closing fast. You can see the wood of the other ship now, the paint, the stitching on the sails. It is real. It is happening. Your heart beats faster. The chase is nearly over. But the hardest part is next. You glance down at your hands, raw and rope burned. You breathe through your teeth. You steady yourself on the deck. Because soon it will not be about sails and speed. Soon it will be boarding hooks and blades. And the part where you either become a pirate for real or find out just how sharp those cutlasses are. You're told where to stand, what to do, and what not to do, which is mostly everything. It is hard to feel like a villain when you're so tired, but you're definitely not the hero. You're handed a boarding rope, just a rope with a hook on the end. You're told to swing it when close enough and not before. That is it. That is your job. You nod like this makes sense. The rope feels heavier than it looks, like it knows what it is about to do. Around you, the men are focused. No shouting, no swagger, just preparation. One checks his flintlock pistol 3 times in a row. Another gently tightens the straps on his boots. A third mutters something under his breath. Maybe a prayer. Maybe a grocery list. Everyone is dealing with the moment in their own way. You try to copy the one who is breathing slow and blinking a lot. He seems calm. Or broken. It is hard to tell. You look at the deck beneath you. You know every creak now. You know which boards bend, which knots your fingers tied this morning. You feel strangely protective of this floating disaster you live on. This is your home now, a wooden platform full of strangers and salt and sharp things. Someone taps your shoulder and points to a small belt knife you forgot to check. You nod and inspect it, trying to look like someone who inspects things. The blade is dull. The handle is sticky. It is perfect. You tuck it back into your belt and hope you never need to use it. The captain walks past. He says nothing. just nods at the quartermaster and keeps moving. His coat flaps behind him like a flag in slow motion. You are surprised to feel a little better when you see him. Not safe, just less alone. Like if the world ends in the next 5 minutes, at least someone will have seen it coming. The smell of oil and salt hangs heavy in the air. Your mouth is dry. You are suddenly very aware of your boots, your sleeves, your hair. You wonder if you look like a pirate yet. Then you remember pirates do not care what they look like. They care if they float, fight, and get paid. You settle for looking alert. You think about the people on that deck. Are they like you, just trying to live another day? Or are they the kind of people who deserve to be boarded? You will never know. That is not your job. Then a voice calls out an order. You grip the rope. Not yet. You breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth. The sea rolls under you like a living thing. You feel it in your knees. Then, without warning, the quartermaster raises one hand. Everyone tenses. The moment is seconds away. Your thoughts scatter like startled birds. You are not ready. Nobody ever is. But you are here, and the hook is in your hand. Voices carry across water. There might be a warning, or a demand, or a flag that says something rude in fabric form. The crew around you becomes a wall of bodies ready to surge. The smell of powder appears before the sound, like the air itself is anxious. If shots are fired, they crack like the sky breaking. If not, the tension still feels like a rope pulled too tight. You grip wood, you steady your feet, and you realize how thin a ship really is, just planks between you and a very long swim. Then the order comes and everything moves at once. There is no grace to it. Boarding is not ballet. It is legs, arms, ropes, shouting, and people pretending to be ladders. Men throw grappling hooks with muscle and prayer. You do too, and it sticks. It actually sticks. You hear the thunk of iron meeting rail. Someone grabs the rope behind you, pulls hard, and the ships kiss in a horrible crunch of splintering wood and scraped paint. You clamber forward. The deck tilts in strange directions. Your hands find lines, ledges, and the wrong parts of other people. There is a chorus of boots on wood, pistols cocking, blades drawn, and a general soundtrack of yelling, not angry yelling, survival yelling, instruction yelling. One man beside you yells the name of someone who is not here. You don't ask why. Crossing over is the worst part. There is no guarantee of footing. The two ships are arguing with the waves and trying to outshake each other. You feel the world tip beneath your feet. One slip and you will fall between the vessels into the sea, into the place where men vanish. But you do not fall. You land on the other ship's deck, knees bent, breath held. For a split second nobody sees you. You exist in a bubble of noise and colour and smell. The wood beneath your feet is unfamiliar, foreign. The grain runs the wrong way. The ropes are too clean. Everything is wrong and also real. Then someone sees you. They lunge. You react, not with skill but with reflex. You duck, move, push, survive. Others fight around you, some with practiced violence, others like drunk marionettes trying not to die. You're in the middle of it now, and nothing feels heroic. It is not a sword fight from a story. It is sweaty men grunting and swinging sharp things at each other. There are more shouts, crashes. A pistol fires so close to your ear that your head rings like a bell. You see someone fall. You don't know if they are yours or theirs. It doesn't matter. You keep moving. Your legs have stopped asking questions. They just go where the panic sends them. You duck under a swinging rope and nearly lose your balance. Someone catches you and shoves you upright without looking. That is the teamwork of piracy. Accidentally coordinated chaos. Above, sails flap wildly. The ships creak and groan. Below, the water slaps at both hulls like it wants a turn in the fight. The smell is sweat, powder, salt, and fear. It burns in your nose. You try not to breathe through your mouth because you do not want to taste what is happening. Then, just as suddenly as it started, it shifts. The defenders falter. Their line breaks. You see one throw down a weapon and raise his hands. Another bolts for a hatch. The sound changes from fury to exhaustion. The order is shouted to stop. You freeze. You are shaking. You look down and realize you're still gripping your rope hook like it's a talisman. You're alive. You're on a ship you did not wake up on. And somehow, you are now one of the people who just did this. The strange thing about taking over a ship is that the fighting stops much faster than you expect. 1 minute it is a blur of shouting and steel and heavy boots, and the next minute everyone is just breathing. Like the violence only needed 5 minutes of fame before turning back into exhaustion. You catch your breath near a barrel that smells like pickled fish and something deeply wrong. Nobody notices. Everyone is too busy being alive. You start to notice faces. One pirate is grinning like he just won a bet. Another is bleeding from somewhere important but laughing anyway. The captured crew has that wide-eyed look of men who just watched their day take a very hard left turn. Some look angry, some look afraid, some look bored, which is unsettling. You realize that even this might not be their first time. You help gather up a few scattered weapons. They are surprisingly normal, just wood and metal, used and scratched. There is no treasure chest of golden swords, just the tools of people who expected trouble and got it. One of the other pirates nudges you and points to a small bag of coins. You both shrug. Let the quartermaster deal with that. You start opening crates, dried fish, cloth, rum, salt, more salt. Less exciting than treasure, but more useful. Pirates care less about gold, and more about what keeps a ship running. Gold is nice. Salted pork is survival. A man beside you finds a small chest and whistles. It is full of coin. Not a king's ransom, but enough to make some eyes widen. He holds it up like a prize at a carnival, then tucks it into a bag that vanishes into the folds of his coat. Nobody says anything. Finders keepers is not a rule. It is a risk. Somebody yells to start moving cargo. Loot is not a dramatic reveal. It is manual labor. You join a line of men handing up barrels and sacks, most of which smell like future regret. Dried goods, maybe. Possibly spices. Definitely something that would not pass a modern health inspection. You lift, pass, repeat. Your arms hate you, and your back files a complaint. Amid the hauling, someone breaks into song. It is not a good song. It is not even a full song. Just a few lines about a girl and a goat and a broken promise. But it is enough to spark a few chuckles and lighten the weight. That is the pirate way. If you cannot make it glamorous, make it ridiculous. You get assigned to check below decks. It is dark, damp, and crowded with things you wish you could unsee. A rat the size of a puppy blinks at you, unimpressed. You check for hidden compartments like you would even know what one looks like. You find nothing but a mouldy sack of what may have once been bread and a single boot. No foot inside, small victory. Back on deck, someone is playing with a captured spyglass like a kid with a new toy. Another pirate is using a stolen coat to strut around like a fancy admiral. Nobody stops him. Let him have his moment. He will be swabbing the deck tomorrow like the rest. You help carry a barrel of dried peas back to your ship, It is heavy. You hate how heavy it is. You also understand why it matters. Pirates do not live on romance. They live on barrels. Barrels of food, water, gunpowder, nails, rum. The loot is not just coin. It is survival, measured in scoops. Once everything is stowed, the ships drift apart. The other vessel, lighter now, damaged and quiet, floats like a ghost of itself. The men watch it as if expecting it to say something. It does not. The sky is starting to pink at the edges. You look back at the ship you just helped conquer. It feels smaller now, like a scene you stepped out of. Your ship pulls away slowly, groaning under the added weight. You're sweaty, tired, a little bruised, and somehow proud. You just participated in history's worst team-building exercise, and you did not die. Back on your own deck, the mood shifts again from sharp to smug, like a cat that just knocked something off a table. The quartermaster takes charge of the haul because pirates often chose someone to keep distribution fair and to stop officers from quietly upgrading their lifestyle. You hear talk of shares, of who gets what, of compensation if someone lost a finger in the excitement. It is strangely democratic for a floating gang. Everyone wants their piece, and everyone watches. You realize that the biggest danger on a pirate ship is not always the navy. Sometimes it is your own crew deciding you are being greedy. So fairness becomes survival, with an audience. The quartermaster stands near the loot like a game show host who also settles grudges. He has a scrap of paper with names and notes, and a voice that is used to being obeyed even when it is hoarse. He starts dividing things with the care of a man who does not want to be thrown overboard by morning. The shares are not equal. They are based on rank, role, reputation, and sometimes how loud someone can argue. The captain gets 2 shares, officers get 1.5. Most men get 1. If you are injured, you might get a bonus. If you are annoying, you might get nothing and a warning. You stand back and watch the ritual unfold. A few pirates hover closer, trying to look casual, but their eyes are calculating. A man who lost a tooth argues for extra coin. Another tries to claim he was the first on deck, which nobody can confirm. There is tension, but also an understanding. The system works, mostly because the alternative is knives in the dark. One pirate actually gets a laugh from the crowd by announcing he only wants a bottle of rum and a new shirt that does not itch. The quartermaster throws him a sack of coin and tells him to buy both at the next port or shut up forever. Everyone cheers. Laughter is currency too, and sometimes worth more than gold. Not everything gets divided right away. Some things are set aside for trade, some for barter, some to restock the ship. You realize this is not just greed, this is budgeting, strategic planning. A pirate ship is not just a floating crime ring. It is a small economy with extremely flexible ethics. Your share, when it comes, is not impressive. A few coins, a small pouch of something that might be clothes or might be dirt, and a crude silver ring that probably belonged to someone who now has regrets. You accept it without complaint. It is more than you started with. It is something you earned, with sweat and bruises and exactly one moment of almost falling off the rigging. The quartermaster finishes his work and makes a final announcement, a reminder of tomorrow's duties, and the punishment for hoarding. You notice a few men look sideways at each other. It is all part of the game. Honesty is expected. Trust is monitored. Betrayal is not stylish here. It is messy and final. As the crew begins to drift into other tasks or smaller celebrations, you tuck your share into a hidden pocket that you immediately forget how to access. You are tired, your arms ache, your ears are still ringing slightly from earlier, but for now you are paid, you are accepted, and you are not the problem. And on a pirate ship, that is what victory looks like. Now you see the people you just robbed, standing with that expression humans get when their day goes off script. Some pirates are brutal, some are pragmatic, some are weirdly polite, like they are doing a bad job but still want a good review. You hover in that uncomfortable space where you can feel sympathy and still be part of the machine. Maybe the crew is set ashore somewhere. Maybe some are made to join, willingly or not. The details depend on the crew and the moment. History is messy. You breathe out and try to stay calm because the sea does not pause for moral reflection. It just keeps moving. The captured men are herded to one side of the deck, guarded but not tied. Some look angry, some look terrified. One is just sitting with his head in his hands, either thinking deeply or regretting everything. There is no screaming, no dramatic speeches, just the sound of a crew collectively realizing they have lost the game today. You stand nearby, pretending not to stare, and trying to avoid imagining yourself in their place. You fail. It is too easy. The officers talk quietly about what to do next. Options are limited. Join us, or enjoy rowing practice in a small boat with no sail. You hear the quartermaster say the words share of rations, and suddenly everything sounds like accounting again. Moral decisions dressed up as logistics. One pirate you barely know walks up to a captured sailor and offers him a sip of water. It is a small moment. Kindness, or guilt, or both. The man takes it without a word. Another captured sailor glares like he wants to bite someone. You respect that. Losing with dignity is hard. Losing with rage is at least active. You overhear one of your crewmates arguing that a few of the captured men could be useful. Sailors are always needed, especially ones who know how to mend sails or fix a leak. But the problem with bringing new people on board is that they might not like you. They might wait for a storm or a dark night or a loose plank to change their luck. Trust is not freely given here. It is bartered, and usually after a lot of watching. Someone else suggests marooning. That always sounds theatrical, but it just means dropping them somewhere unpleasant with a vague hope of survival. It has happened before, it will happen again. There is a long silence as everyone considers the idea. Then someone coughs, someone else spits, and the conversation moves on. That is how pirate justice works. Loud opinions, quiet conclusions. You wonder if the men standing there will remember your face, if you will remember theirs. Probably not. There are too many storms ahead, too many sails to chase, too many biscuits to chew. Memory is a luxury. You tell yourself it is not personal, it is survival. You do not believe it completely, but you do believe it enough to keep functioning. In the end, a decision is made. The captured crew will be placed in their own longboat, with enough supplies to reach land. Maybe. Probably. You help load the supplies, avoiding eye contact, working quickly. The captured men board in silence, except for one who mutters something under his breath. You do not ask what it was. You do not want to know. The boat is lowered. It floats beside your ship for a moment, then begins to drift, pulled by the ocean's indifferent hand. You watch it grow smaller until it becomes a dot, then nothing, then part of the sea again. The sails sag a little as the wind softens, like even the weather is tired. The ship rocks gently, finding its rhythm again after the chaos of the chase. You are heading back toward shore. Nassau is somewhere out there on the horizon. not yet visible, but close enough that the crew can smell it in their imaginations. Land means repairs, supplies, rumours, drinks, and maybe the chance to sleep in something that doesn't swing or creak or smell like shared socks. Nobody moves quickly anymore. The ship has shifted from the sharp focus of pursuit into the long, thoughtful pause that follows. Men lean against the rails, stretch sore backs, check for bruises they didn't know they had. Some sit on crates and mend things, a shirt, a strap, a memory. Others just stare out at the horizon like it owes them an answer. The air smells like old rope and day-old sweat, with just the faintest suggestion of something better ahead. Cooking fires, fruit, women, safety. Shore is a concept as much as a place, and right now it is a tempting one. Someone starts talking about the King's pardon again. The words drift lazily from a group near the forward mast, where a few men sit cross-legged with a shared bottle of something that smells like it came out of a wet boot. The pardon is not new news, but it keeps resurfacing, like driftwood you thought was gone. An offer from the Crown to stop stealing and stabbing and in return not get hanged. Some call it mercy, some call it bait. Most call it complicated. One man says he knows someone who took it, got off the ship, signed the paper, and now works loading cargo in a proper port. Has a wife, chickens, a bench he made himself. Another laughs and says that same man was spotted back at sea a month later, angrier and somehow wetter. Everyone chuckles, but it's the kind of laugh that happens when no one wants to admit they're thinking about the same thing. No one fully trusts the Crown. But the offer hangs in the air. Another map, another risk, another question you don't know how to answer. You sit with your back against a coil of rope, legs stretched out, listening. You haven't said much, not out loud, but you feel something pulling at you. Not the wind, not the ship, something quieter. That old creeping thought that maybe you were not made for this forever. That maybe somewhere, somehow, there's a quieter version of your own life waiting for you to survive this one. Someone nearby starts humming, a tune you half know. Then they begin singing low, slurred lyrics about a tavern girl who stole a pirate's coin and then bought him dinner. The words don't rhyme, the melody wanders, and still it sticks. It's a terrible song that suddenly makes you miss things you've never even had. A gull lands on the railing and stares at you with that blank judgment birds specialise in. Maybe it has seen 100 ships like this come and go. Some return, some sink, some turn around at the last minute. You blink at it, then look away, because you're not ready to be stared at by a bird with that much emotional range. A breeze lifts again. The sails fill slightly. The ship creaks, but this time it feels less like a warning and more like a stretch. You stand and help tie down a flapping line, fingers working from habit. The harbour is still ahead. The night is still long. But for now the sun is lowering. The men are quiet and the sea is gently rocking you like it wants you calm. The men talk about the proclamation that offered pirates a chance to surrender and be forgiven, which sounds tempting until you remember these are pirates, and pirates are allergic to authority. Some are interested. Some call it a trap. Some want the pardon, and also want to keep the loot, which is the most pirate sentence possible. The year 1717 feels like a hinge, the moment the fun starts to get chased by consequences. People mention governors, deadlines, and the idea that the Bahamas might not stay a pirate playground forever. You listen, half relaxed, half tense, like someone hearing their company might start enforcing rules. The sea keeps rocking you, but the future is knocking. It started as a rumour, the kind that travels faster than the wind, a royal proclamation. His Majesty, in all his powdered wig wisdom, had offered pirates across the Caribbean a clean slate. Surrender before a certain date, and you could walk away free, no trials, no nooses, just a polite handshake and the vague promise of land-based employment. A strange offer when your entire resume is crime and rope burn. On deck, the debate becomes louder. One man swears his cousin in Jamaica took the pardon, got married, and now sells coconuts. Another says that same cousin was strung up by the next patrol because someone found a stolen spoon in his bag. It is hard to tell where truth ends and fear begins. The stories multiply like rats in the hold. The quartermaster tries to calm things down by reminding everyone that the captain still runs the ship, and decisions are not made by shouting. That only leads to more shouting. You stand by the mast listening, trying to disappear into the wood grain. Someone asks if the pardon means you have to give everything back. Someone else asks if a new name and a new coat would be enough to start over. Nobody has answers, only questions, and a growing suspicion that time is running out. One man mutters that it is not just about the pardon, it is about change, that things are different now. Too many patrols, too many ships being armed. The golden age, if it ever really existed, is turning into something else, something more like a job with uniforms. A few years ago, pirates were news. Now they are becoming a problem to be solved. You think about it as the ship sails closer to Nassau. The sea is calm, but your thoughts are not. Could you give it all up? The freedom, the wind, the feeling of being answerable only to your stomach and your sword. Could you trade it in for something safer, slower, less poetic? A quiet life with clean sheets and taxes? It sounds impossible. And yet, a younger crewmate asks you if you think the king really means it, if the pardon is real. You look at him and shrug. Real is not the point. Believable is. And if enough men believe it, the world will start to shift under their feet, or under their boots, if they can still afford any. Someone else brings up a name, a former privateer turned governor, tasked with cleaning up Nassau. His name is met with silence, then quiet curses. A man with royal backing and a list of names, a man who once did the job and now hands out punishment. You do not know if he's coming soon, but the idea of him is already on board. The sun starts its descent, turning the sky to gold. You lean on the rail and watch the horizon blur. The sea remains endless, but now it feels smaller, as if fences are being built out of paperwork and politics. The pardon might be a rope, or it might be a noose. Pirates do not usually get to choose which. Somewhere between bloodshed and bedtime, someone decides it is laundry day. Not because they like clean shirts, but because even pirates have limits when it comes to being sticky. And this crew, after a full day of salt, sweat, and existential crimes, has reached the threshold. So now, on the open sea, the ship becomes a clothesline. Tunics flap from ropes, breeches dangle from the rigging. A truly heroic pair of socks clings to the bowsprit like it is contemplating escape. You are handed a shirt, a bucket, and told to contribute to the general idea of hygiene. The water is seawater, because you do not waste fresh water on shirts. You dunk, you scrub, you question your life choices. The fabric is stiff with old sweat, salt, and something unexplainable that might be fish. Someone nearby claims that if you don't wash your clothes once in a while, the lice get bored and start forming unions. You do your best to ignore the smell rising from the bucket, which is halfway between bad soup and a wet boot. It is not the worst smell you've met today, but it has ambition. You wring out a pair of breeches and discover that wringing is less about technique and more about deeply personal commitment. Your palms burn. Your sleeves are soaked. Your dignity is wandering the deck looking for better company. As you rinse and wring out the shirt, a breeze catches it and tries to reclaim it for the sea. You catch it just in time, but not before soaking your own sleeve. The man next to you is singing a song about a woman from Tortuga who could kill a man with a look, and while the lyrics are inconsistent, the melody has enthusiasm. Two others are arguing about whether soap is a lie. One insists it only exists so rich people can feel smug. The other says he once saw soap melt a slug, which might not be true, but is upsetting enough to end the conversation. You stretch a pair of trousers between two lines and marvel at how much fabric is required to contain a pirate. Everything is patched, frayed, and stitched with the kind of attention that says, "I will fix this, but I will not enjoy it." Someone nearby is mending a shirt with thread that is clearly from a stolen curtain. It flaps next to a frilly lady's blouse that has somehow become someone's favourite undershirt. Another man is scrubbing what might be a sash, or might be a piece of a tavern's curtain. Either way, he wears it like confidence. The deck smells like salt, sweat, and wet cloth. The wind carries the scent and turns the ship into something between a war machine and a mobile thrift store. The sun does its part, warming the laundry and the backs of tired men. There is a kind of peace in the repetition. Scrub, rinse, wring, hang. Watch it flap like a soggy flag of survival. Someone tries to dry a shirt on a cannon. Someone else uses a spyglass to check if a particularly small sock has made it all the way to Nassau. A small debate starts about who owns a pair of trousers with one leg shorter than the other. The argument is solved by neither man wanting to claim them. One pirate admits his coat is now 3 coats stitched together. Another confesses he has been wearing the same shirt since last summer and considers this progress. A gull tries to steal a damp tunic, fails, and sits on the rigging with wounded pride. The ship rocks gently, creaking like an old man thinking about stairs. The rigging squeaks. The waves slap against the hull with casual persistence like they're checking in. You pause, water running over your knuckles, and stare out at the horizon. The sea is calmer now. The sun is slowly lowering. The wind is steady. Nassau is still ahead, not yet visible, but you can feel the change in the air, the kind of shift that says land is near, even if it is still out of sight. The laundry dances on the line, and you realize this might be the closest thing pirates have to normal. Not plundering, not fighting, just rinsing out yesterday and hoping it dries before tomorrow happens. The clothes flap, the wind hums, and the ship, crime and all, feels almost human. As the sun lowers, the ship settles into evening routine. Supper looks a lot like breakfast, which is emotionally devastating. More biscuit, more salted meat, maybe a thin porridge, maybe a small miracle like fresh fruit if you raided well. People eat with the tired hunger of men who have worked hard and survived chaos. The talk grows looser. Someone laughs, someone complains, someone tells a story again but slower. The ocean turns darker, the air cools, and for a moment the ship feels almost cozy, like a floating village that just happens to be a crime. You feel sleepiness creeping in, but the night watch is still ahead. The food is handed out with the efficiency of repetition. No ceremony, no plating, no garnish. Just a ladle dipped, a hunk dropped, and a gesture that says don't ask what it used to be. You chew while your brain decides whether to focus on flavour or survival. Biscuit dust sticks in the corners of your mouth like edible sandpaper. The salted meat is stubborn. It is not trying to taste good. It is trying to last forever. And yet, you eat it anyway, because hunger is persuasive and options are limited. Around you, the men slump into seated clusters like laundry piles with legs. They lean against barrels, lie on ropes, dangle feet off the side of the ship. Their voices carry in soft bursts scattered by the breeze. Someone talks about the prize taken earlier, guessing what it was worth. Someone else mumbles about a woman he met in Havana who might have been a merchant, a thief, or both. The stories roll out slowly, like the sea itself. Nothing too loud, nothing too fast, just the sound of people uncoiling from a day full of adrenaline. A few begin patching clothes. One man pulls out a needle and sews with the precision of someone who has stabbed both fingers many times and learned nothing. Another is cleaning his pistol with a cloth that was once a shirt. Everything here gets reused, repurposed, or retired with ceremony. There is no waste. You notice that someone has made tea, or what passes for it, using herbs traded or stolen or guessed at. It smells vaguely floral and mostly hot, which is enough. You sit back and feel the weight of the day settle into your bones. Your arms are heavy. Your back is a list of complaints. Your feet feel like strangers. But somehow your mind begins to loosen. There is something comforting about routine, even in a place that sails toward danger like it owes money. There is a rhythm to this life, even if the rhythm is a drunk sailor tapping a barrel with a spoon. The sky above is a bruise of colour, purple and deepening. Stars begin to emerge like shy lanterns. The moon, if it is out, climbs slowly. You watch it, and wonder if the men on the other ships are watching it too, or if they are already asleep, or if they are still chewing the same cursed biscuit. The sea reflects the fading light in shimmers and lines. It looks peaceful, which you know is a lie, but it is a pretty one. You sip some of the hot whatever it is tea, and it tastes like boiled grass and hope. Someone near you starts humming. Not a song you know, maybe not a song anyone knows. Just a sound to fill the space between meals and orders. It spreads softly, and for a moment the ship does not feel like a workplace or a crime scene or a death trap. It feels like home, in the way a tent in a storm might feel like home. Temporary, fragile, but shelter all the same. You stretch, you yawn, you glance at the stars again. The night is coming, and with it, more duty. But for now you are full enough, tired enough, and not dead, which is as close to winning as it gets out here. Night on a ship is different. The world narrows to the circle of lantern light, the creak of boards, and the vast dark water surrounding you. You take a turn on watch, eyes scanning the horizon that is now mostly invisible. The stars hang above like cold glitter. The wind is softer, and every small sound feels important, like the ship is whispering secrets. Somewhere in the darkness could be another vessel, or a reef, or nothing at all, which is its own kind of problem when your mind starts inventing shapes. You wrap yourself in whatever cloth you have and breathe slowly, letting the rocking steady you. And when your watch ends, you finally get to return to your so-called bed. But while it is your turn, you are the eyes of the ship. You and the sea, both awake, both pretending not to blink. Lanterns sway on their hooks. casting long shadows that look like things they are not. Rope coils seem to move. The mast groans like it remembers every storm it ever survived, and your body, already worn down from the day, starts asking why you are still standing. You shift your weight, trying to keep blood in your feet. You listen to the soft slap of the waves, the quiet breath of sails gently pulling in the night air. You glance upward and catch the faintest sound of someone else in the rigging, another watcher tucked higher, his silhouette fused with the stars. You wonder what he sees from up there, or if he too is trying to keep his thoughts quiet enough not to wake the ghosts. There is a rhythm to this stillness, a fragile balance. Not true peace, because peace is not what ships are built for, but something close to it. You grip the railing and scan the horizon again, as if expecting something to announce itself. A flash, a lantern, a sound that does not belong. But there is nothing, and that is both a relief and a test. Behind you, most of the crew sleeps in tangled heaps. You envy them, but not too much. Sleep on a pirate ship is a gamble. You could be warm and dreaming, or cold and dreaming of falling. You could be alone in a hammock, or nose to knee with 3 snoring men and a rat that insists on being part of the team. Someone shifts below decks and the floor creaks. A low cough answers from the other side of the ship, the kind of noises that prove you are not alone, but do not invite conversation. No one talks much on night watch unless they have to. It feels wrong, like shouting in a library or laughing in a church. The darkness carries voices too far, and secrets are too easy to spill when the world feels this big and this empty. Eventually your mind drifts, as it always does. You think of other ships, of the ones who never made it home, of captains who ran out of luck, of the bottom of the sea, and how it keeps secrets better than any man. You wonder if somewhere in the deep there is a pile of broken compasses and cursed gold, and all the boots lost in storms. You pull your coat tighter, more ritual than remedy. Your shoulders ache, your eyes sting. But there is a comfort in doing the job. Just you, the sea, the stars, and the belief that you're keeping everyone else safe, even if it is only by staying awake 1 hour longer than your fear. And then your replacement appears, emerging from the dark with a muttered greeting and heavy footsteps. You nod. You hand off the watch. No ceremony, just a quiet transfer of responsibility between 2 people who are trying not to think too hard. You head below and you crawl back to your hammock or corner carefully because everything is harder at night. The ship is warmer below, but the air is thick with human breath and damp cloth. Men settle in around you, each one finding a position that hurts the least. The sounds of the ocean become a steady hush. The ship creaks like an old house, familiar and constant, and the sails flutter softly above like giant sleepy curtains. You close your eyes, and your body sinks into the rhythm, even if your mind is still full of salt and questions. Somewhere out there, the world is changing, governors are coming, pardons are being offered, and consequences are sharpening their knives. But for now, you are a pirate who has made it through 1 whole day, and you finally fall asleep. The hammock cradles you like a tired hand, rocking just enough to blur the lines between motion and memory. The heat of the day has settled into the boards, and the scent of tar and old rope clings to everything. Somewhere nearby, someone is snoring gently. Someone else turns over with a grunt. You hear a boot drop, a whispered curse, a long exhale, all the strange lullabies of life at sea. The floorboards thump softly beneath the feet of a man still finishing a final task, or maybe just walking off a thought he cannot sleep with. You try not to open your eyes. It is not comfortable exactly. There is no such thing as comfort here. Just degrees of discomfort you learn to accept. A knot digging into your back, a damp patch under your shoulder, a bruise you forgot about reminding you it exists. You do not adjust these things anymore. You simply fold yourself around them and let exhaustion finish what the day started. You learn that sleep on a ship is not a break. It is an agreement between your body and gravity and wood. Your hands still tingle from rope work. Your arms feel like sacks of sand. Your face is sun-tight and wind-scoured. Even your teeth feel tired, as if chewing that morning's ship biscuit counted as manual labour. The back of your neck is sore where your shirt rubbed it raw. You are tired in places that do not even have names, but your belly is not empty, your limbs are still attached, and you are not bleeding from anywhere new. In pirate math, that's a good day. Above, the ocean rolls on. The hull groans softly as if dreaming. The world outside the ship fades away. Nassau, and whatever waits there, will arrive soon enough. You hear talk of it still echoing in your skull. Pardons, warnings, names spoken in low tones, a future that looks suspiciously like it might involve rules. You picture the harbour lights that are not yet visible, and the feeling of boots on solid ground again. But the future is a problem for the version of you that wakes up tomorrow. Not tonight. Not now. Tonight, you're just another body in the dark, wrapped in stolen cloth, sleeping beside men who might save you or sell you depending on the hour. Trust is a fluid thing here, but right now, everyone is too tired to betray anyone. Even treachery needs rest. Even revenge wants a pillow. Your last thoughts are strange and flickering. The stars you saw during your watch, the cracked smile of a man cleaning a pistol, the way the sails snapped like thunder when the wind changed, the shape of the other ship's crew frozen just before surrender, the taste of that cursed water, the quiet laugh when someone made a joke in the middle of chaos, a bird you saw that did not belong that far out, the faint scar on your forearm you do not remember getting, the strange calm that arrived after the fight, little pieces of the day floating in your mind like driftwood. Your thoughts slow down, the sea rocks you, the ship breathes around you. Tomorrow waits beyond the waves, but for now, your eyes are closed, and you fall into a deep, well-deserved sleep.